Welcome to Behind Closed Cases. Today, we uncover the chilling story of a woman found dead in her own kitchen. The quiet surroundings of her solitary life shattered by an act of violence. In the early hours of a Tuesday morning, neighbors reported the faint scent of something odd from her apartment. They hadn't seen her for days. Officers arrived to a locked door, and with no immediate signs of distress outside, they decided to enter. Inside, they found a scene that told of a struggle, a knife on the floor, overturned chairs, and most chillingly, the woman herself, lying still on the kitchen tile. The woman, 42-year-old Laura Voss, lived alone in a small apartment tucked away in a quiet neighborhood. Her life was routine: work, home, and the occasional social outing. She had no close family, and her world was generally quiet, but her last moments had been anything but. Laura's close friends and distant family members were shocked, unable to think of anyone who could have wished her harm. Detectives began piecing together her final days, searching her apartment, her computer, and her phone records. They found a collection of old letters in a drawer from an ex-partner, each one hinting at a turbulent relationship, but nothing violent or aggressive. A pattern of messages in her email inbox suggested she had recently started dating again. Friends said she had seemed hopeful, talking about a recent dinner with someone she was taking things slow with, but the messages ended abruptly 3 days before her death. Detectives brought in 2 of her ex-partners and her current boyfriend for questioning. The exes offered little but old memories and hurt feelings. However, Laura's new boyfriend, a man named Adrian, revealed he had spent the night with her only a few days before her death. He admitted they had argued over dinner, and she had asked him to leave. Adrian's story was corroborated by messages on her phone, showing tension in their budding relationship, but there was no indication of physical violence. His alibi was shaky, but with no clear evidence against him, investigators were forced to dig deeper. Back in her kitchen, forensics revealed subtle clues missed at first glance. Smudged fingerprints near the knife, traces of struggle, and an odd mix of spices scattered on the counter. A small amount of a rare toxin, barely detectable, was found in a drink left on the table. Lab reports confirmed that the toxin, while not common, was lethal in small doses. Now, detectives had a lead. Someone had laced Laura's drink, hoping the poisoning would go unnoticed. But when she didn't succumb immediately, things took a violent turn. When investigators questioned her colleagues, one name kept coming up: Beth, an old friend turned business rival. They'd worked closely for years. But tensions rose after Beth accused Laura of stealing a client. Beth had made no secret of her resentment. But could bitterness over business lead to murder? Beth initially denied involvement, painting herself as an angry but harmless competitor. But one detail caught the detective's attention: Beth's recent purchase of an unusual herbal product, one that contained the same rare toxin. Beth was called in for further questioning. At first, she held her ground, brushing off any suggestions of wrongdoing. But under pressure, her demeanor shifted. She admitted to visiting Laura's apartment the night of her death, explaining it as an attempt to patch things up. She claimed they had a drink together, trying to clear the air. But Laura, she said, had been tense, untrusting. She left soon after, never imagining anything would happen. Detectives sensed deception, but had no concrete evidence to arrest her. Yet. Turning to the apartment building security footage, detectives uncovered a critical breakthrough. The grainy footage showed Beth entering the building at the same time she had mentioned, but there was another figure, barely visible, slipping in minutes later and staying for hours. Who was this second person? And why hadn't they left any clues? When they enhanced the footage, they identified him as Victor, a mutual acquaintance of both women, known for his troubled history with Beth. Upon questioning, Victor revealed a twisted story. He admitted to going to Laura's place after Beth left, planning to ask Laura for a loan. But things took a dark turn. Victor was agitated, and in his frustration, he spiked her drink, thinking it would scare her into compliance. When he realized it wasn't enough, he panicked and acted out in violence. His confession was chilling, but it filled in the gaps of what had happened that night. With Victor's confession, detectives had enough evidence to place him at the scene. Beth, though indirectly involved, continued to deny any foreknowledge of Victor's plans. However, a final discovery on Victor's phone sealed her fate. A message exchanged between them hinted at her knowing his intentions and turning a blind eye. Beth had encouraged Victor, her resentment toward Laura clouding her judgment. In the end, her silence and complicity proved to be her undoing. Detectives closed the case with heavy hearts, knowing jealousy and betrayal had driven two people to ruin another's life. In the closing moments of this story, we're reminded that anger and resentment left unchecked can lead to irreversible damage. So, if you find yourself holding on to bitterness, take a step back. Because sometimes the price of revenge is far greater than anyone expects.